In the work we do with the Leadership Circle, which I think you're familiar with as well, we talk about courageous authenticity. And it sounds
Mm.
like this is a way that you are showing up with courageous authenticity in terms of how you're working with the client. That must be a tremendous invitation for them to be courageous and authentic back with you. What are you noticing about how they respond once they're seen in this way?
Yeah, no, I agree with you on this. It's a combination of courageous authenticity, which I wasn't thinking of it in this way before, but I agree with you. Courageous authenticity being one, and I suppose related to courage is also silence, like courageous silence, not speaking, especially in the moments when you really want to say something. And then what I found is that in the not speaking, and it's not a form of listening because we make listening the ideal and then turn it into this kind of listening, that kind of listening. It's a little bit confusing after a while.
Yes,
So
yes.
don't practice listening. Just be quiet. Be quiet. There's no action involved. We're not listening for some other reason.
Active
So
listening and do
courageous.
all these things that we talk about when we teach
It's
active
a
listening. It's a very busy thing to teach.
it's a
Yeah.
very busy thing,
Yeah.
especially these days because we put so much emphasis on it, and it is important, but we make it too big of a deal, and then we start doing listening as opposed to being listening. The point that I'm making is let's get back to the beingness of listening, where we're completely still. Even when things arise that we want to say, we don't say it. We're not just listening with our ears or our eyes. We're listening with our skin. We're listening to all our other bodies, our energetic bodies, our emotional bodies. We're listening in this holistic way. So listening from the present, the past, the future, mind, body, soul, earth, and heaven. We're listening through everything and in every way. And then I think something amazing will happen.
When we were preparing for this conversation, we talked about this space between, which
Yeah,
is what you're pointing to in these ways you're describing this. And how do we work with what happens in the space between? You
yeah.
know, how do you even putting language to that? What does it mean to hold that space, to be open to that space? And how do you think about that? The space between.
I'm thinking about even the two of us now, the space between us now. That feels to me like a nice flowing river. And the conversation doesn't feel really rushed and yet getting deeper and progressing further. Like all of these things I feel between us. You might be feeling similar things or even different things. So what I then say is with this space between us, I am bringing myself to be more tuned to it. What is not the things that I project about it, because I could make up a lot of stories about what is going on
Yes.
and what might happen next and why it happened. I can do a lot of those things. And I'm not doing those things. Instead, what the thing that I'm doing is trying to pay attention to what is actually between us, that space. And then from there, I tend to find that with focusing on that space, it depersonalizes the connection so much more that it has each person feeling more seen. That's a kind of irony about the whole thing, actually.
Mm.
Is we're almost like no longer focusing on, oh, it's a person. That person is just Donna, and Donna is just, you know, instead the connection, we is to see the connection as opposed to just the person, myself or the other person.